All right. It's Wednesday, one of the best days of the week, and one of the best shows on the internet, Masculine Geek. This is Masculine Geek number 156 with special guest Noble Brown. He is a barbarian, author, writer, and professor, which I want to have some questions about that. That sounds pretty cool. And he is here with us live by his fire in his official smoking jacket, which we were talking about before the show as well. So, welcome, Mr. Brown.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you get, with the exception of James, you get all the Masculine Geek crew tonight. So old and new, which is why we have Rob or Rurb with us. He doesn't have his cat, but make an appearance. So you first and foremost, we became acquaintances via Twitter, started following each other,
Right.
and you go by the handle socioap sociopath
Sociopath.
sociopathily. All right, there you go. I try to
Yeah,
say that 4 times.
it's okay. It's a made up
Uh,
word.
yeah, it's still pretty cool once I get my bearings with saying it. So, what does that mean exactly?
It's funny you should ask. So, the origin and etymology of the word goes back about 3 or 4 years. And I had actually wanted to start a t shirt company. And so, but I didn't want it to be just another, you know, gym bro company
Mm,
out in the, with all the noise and static out there. So, I have a thing for words, languages, all that good stuff. And so I thought, well, what's, two words, you put them together, it kind of sounds like it might be evocative and meaningful. And so I took the word sociopath and the word athlete, pressed them together, and came up with that, and then sort of defined it as a sociopathlete is somebody who is, uh, counterculture wasn't a strong enough word. That's why I use words like barbarian and so forth. Um, but if you look at there's several definitions of sociopath out there. Most of them aren't very flattering, but
yeah.
in many cases, what it really is defined as is somebody who doesn't follow societal norms.
Hmm.
And I figured, well, that's good enough for me, because society sucks right now. And then the athlete part, obviously, I think vitality and physical prowess are important and also sorely lacking. So
Correct.
that was the plan. Didn't really stick with the T-shirt business, although I made a few, but I didn't really sell a lot of them. So decided to make it more about just getting the message out. And honestly, it just turned into a kind of a professional shit posting slash occasional history lesson uh, effort for me. So that's where I'm at.
All right, cool.
And then I also plug my books with it every now and then. So
I'm about to say here. Let me share my screen with everybody. And there we go. So there's your logo.
oh, there you go. You found the website.
I did. It took me a little while. I had to because I signed up for your newsletter and I bought a physical copy of your book,
Thank you.
and I had to navigate, on the mobile, the right hand side, the little menu thing. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good to the marketplace. So it has to be there. Because when I put your name in Amazon, it didn't show up in the first 2 pages. I'm like, what the? So I had to put in white arrow and then your name,
Yeah,
and
I'm
then I
sure I'm
got it.
all list.
I think we all are. That's how it comes down to. So the white arrow, what's that about? That's a fantasy novel, right?
It is. So I took a bunch of ideas that I'd had over decades, really, and boiled it down to a quick story. Um, Probably too quick, probably too many characters in it, but I'm, you know, when you're world building, that's what happens. And, I wanted it to be, if you just took all the action out of a Tolkien novel
Mm.
and skipped all the poetry and scenery and singing and Tom Bombadil that I'm so glad they left out of the movie, and just cut all that, and it's just okay, just chop chop chop, one step to the next. It's very quick
so
paced
so
book,
basically a pulp fantasy adventure.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I look forward to reading it.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was one of those things where I punched out the first draft during National Novel Writing Month back in 2014.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I needed another year or two. No, it wasn't 2014, was it? It was. Yeah. And I needed a few more years to actually get the final version done.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
But it's not very long. Now, the sequel to it, I just finished the first draft of, is like 2.5 times longer. I spent a little more time on that.
You did that over National Novel Writing Month as well, didn't you?
I did, but I split it up. I did half of it one year and last year, and half of it this year. So
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
find that for whatever reason that works for me. If I just put a gun to my own head and force myself to get at least 50,000 words out in a month, then I can actually do it.
Yeah.
Without that level of self accountability, I tend to slack off.
I know the feeling. I'm almost the same way. That's actually a very good discipline method, is to do the NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
Yeah, which comes down to like what, 2,400 words a day.
It's 1,667 a day if you want to
Okay.
hit the 50K mark.
Okay. Yeah, that's a size of a good novel right there.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. I like it. Now you, in addition to all this, you have your site is, well, let's go to the manifesto, because this is basically where you have your almost like mission statement and etymology, as it were, of the
Yeah.
word. And yeah. Okay.
That's probably more clear than what I just told you, because I actually said about that.
All right, cool. And you got articles. And what's the difference between articles and journal?
So the journal is more like short format, although some of them are longer.
Okay.
The articles are meant to be timeless. In other words,
Evergreen.
yeah, exactly. Evergreen content that's not going to, you can read that now or in 5 years from now, and it shouldn't make a difference.
Okay.
So that was deliberate, kind of the separation there. And they're more long form content. A few of the journal articles got longer, but that was more because I was telling a story around the event.
Okay.
And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have like a Twitter thread that goes off, and then I'll expand it.
Okay.
Like that one there, the picture had a story, is
Mhm.
probably my most viral tweet
Really?
of all time. And I figured, well,
Oh,
I'll
shit.
give the backstory to that.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And that.
yeah, the squat rack in my dirt driveway with the chicken running across it. So,
Jeez. Okay. With the chicken photobombing, I see that.
right.
So you did. Okay. I'll have to read this later. I'm not gonna go through it all now, but I'll leave that up. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right. So what's the basic plot of White Arrow?
well, the idea is there's a made up world that has, the White Arrow only deals with a fraction of it. It gets bigger in the sequel, but all these kingdoms. Yes, the government should lock us all up. Thank you, Nick. But
Nick,
I'd
Nick's
like to
always
see them
trouble.
try. Let's
Yeah.
just.
Right. Good luck with that. Yeah.
So basically, there's several kingdoms on the western half of this continent, and one of them has, a civil war breaks out, and several other political interests get involved, personal interests get involved. There's a religious faction that gets involved, and it all comes down to trying to stop the guy who started the war. Turns out his strings are being pulled by an even bigger bad guy. I mean, you know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really terribly unique about it until there is. And what I mean by that is that the every fantasy novelist, if he's smart, like there's rules about the magic and so forth in the universe, um, and those, if you don't strictly follow those, then it's just, you're just making shit up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fully reveal the origins of the magic in this book, but I know in my head where it all comes from. And so by book 3 or 4, it'll be revealed. But so that's kind of what I've kept in mind for it. But it's basically just, stop the Civil War, stop the bad guy who's got access to dark magic, and find a way to return things to normal, although they don't return to normal.
Okay. And the one you just finished is a sequel to White Arrow. Does that have a title yet?
Yeah, it's The Widow's Wrath.
The Widow's Wrath. Okay. All right. I'm sensing a series.
Yeah, like I said, there's at least 3, because this next book leaves a lot kind of unresolved, but not in a way that's like, it's not one of those dickhead cliffhangers where you're waiting 3 years for a resolution to. I mean, things get tied up, but there's still a lot out there.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that the 3rd book, I've got a working title of The God Forge for that one, but that's just barely started.
Okay. Nice. I like it. TJ also writes pulp fantasy and detective noir as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Now, the smoking jacket just fascinates me for some reason. I don't know why. Probably because we as men don't wear them anymore. So, what is that? Is that a trademark of yours, or it's something that was just one day you're like, you know what? I just want a fucking smoking jacket.
So no, we were going to a costume party this last Halloween, and so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go as Hefner and you go as a bunny. I told my fiance that's what we're doing, and so she was all for it. And like I said, there's a picture out there somewhere. If I'll send it to you guys afterwards.
Cool.
And so the idea was, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So I bought like the satin pajamas and, the hat and the pipe and the whole bit. And I'm wearing this jacket all evening. And I'm like, this is surprisingly comfortable, because it's not just a costume jacket. Like, it's a legit smoking jacket, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I figure, what the hell, I'll get something good. And, in Arizona, like right now, it's in the 50s, so it's not cold, but it's cool enough that if I'm going to sit outside and smoke a cigar, I'm going to want a jacket.
Yeah.
And I have this nice cozy red velvet with like satin lining, smoking jacket.
It's fucking awesome.
Comfortable. It keeps me warm. Like, this is why we did this 70 years ago. Why? I don't know why we gave it up.
Yeah, and it to some extent, I mean, it was a status thing, but it also protected your clothes from the ash, from the odor.
That's exactly it. Like,
yeah.
I wear nice. I don't know if I'm nice, but like, I always wear a collared shirt to work, right? Because everybody's on video, or you should be, even when you're working remote. And I'm in a managerial position, so I want to look like I actually woke up and gave a shit about my job. And but I mean, I get these things dry cleaned. I don't want to have to worry about burning holes through them and stuff.
Exactly.
So it actually does its job brilliantly while still looking a little classy.
I like it. I'm getting one. That's just it's gonna happen. Fantastic.
Amazon, man, they're cheap.
I'm gonna check that out. That's fucking amazing. All right, cool. Oh, what cigar are you smoking? Do you have a go-to?
Yes, but this isn't it. My go-to is the Drew Estate Undercrown Maduro. Really, really good smoke.
Okay.
This is let's see if I can get this in the Perdomo.
Oh, Perdomo. Yeah, Perdomo is always good.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
Is that the 10th anniversary one?
It is.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah, sun-grown. So anything Maduro. So
Maduro will mess with my stomach if I don't have it at it's like a post-dinner or supper cigar.
Yeah, well, I just had pork tenderloin, so I'm good.
Yeah, you're right in there. You have to fucking worry about that.
So
cool, very cool. So what's the Batman origin story of Noble Brown? How'd you get your start? Like, what prompted you to get on Twitter, to do what you do, to actually, well, to lack of a better word, to give a shit?
It's so much bigger than, I mean, the Twitter thing is, I honestly find it to be almost distracting when I'm not deliberate about it. The origin of the Twitter account, like I said, my fiance and I, we were going to start a t-shirt company, and we were going to the Olympia, the bodybuilding contest in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
this was back in, I don't know, 2016, I don't fucking remember. And so it was a while back. And so we, it was initially going to be just kind of a fitness emphasis, but with, but not just your musclehead, gym bro thing, more of a, okay, this is, the philosophers of old were all, jacked for a reason, because it was a man in full concept, to be, strong in the mind, strong in the body. And, got there and realized that it was cool, but I mean, everybody's selling a t-shirt. Everybody's got a brand. Everybody's got a logo. Everybody's got a grift. And didn't really, and I'm not going to compete on a physical level with some of these guys that do nothing but work out all day. So, and I mean, I'm 47 years old, like, so, so I decided to adjust and, started finding other people online that were like-minded with regards to, the culture and masculinity and all that other stuff. And so I try not to pigeonhole myself into any one faction there, because I think that's dangerous.
That's a losing game.
It is a losing game, because, 1 minute you're Jack Murphy's best friend, and the next minute, you got to ask yourself, like, no, I don't know that guy. Like, and I don't want to be that.
Yeah, we have we have similar minds. Masculine Geek is the same way. We don't care about any of that shit.
Yeah. So, I don't pick sides. I don't play favorites. I look at it. I like to look at everything from a historical perspective, and we're in an era that's just totally bizarre right now, and finding historical parallels is difficult. Everybody tries to compare it to the Roman Empire, and I'm like, yeah, but no,
not really.
Yeah.
it's an amusing conceit.
It is, but it's not the same. So
no, definitely not.
It's more about, what can you do, what can you learn from the past, and what can you do about it now to make sure that, your kids and grandkids aren't completely screwed.
Exactly. When we're at essentially, for lack of a better word, we're at the head of history right now. We're making it. We're in process. So we can't see the forest for the trees. But as you say, looking at the past and historically how we've handled things or haven't handled things will help us move forward into the future with a little bit of, I wouldn't say certainty, but maybe a little bit more comfortableness than we would if we ignored it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can compare a lot of it to the socialist and Bolshevik revolutions of the past. Is kind of what we're dealing with now. These populist leftist movements, but at the same time, those guys were a lot more scary than the left wingers we have today. So I don't know if that's even an accurate comparison.
That's true. There's some similarities there. There's some parallels. Yeah, but, similarities and parallels, but it's definitely not the same.
Yeah.
And it'll never be.
Joseph Stalin scares me a lot more than Rachel Maddow.
Well, for different reasons, yeah. She's frightening for different reasons. All right, now we've gone over author and writer; those two go hand in hand. We've touched on Barbarian. Now, Professor. What? Tell me about that. As far as like what that's about, as like an official professor, like you've gone out and you've taught. Yeah, what do you teach? No, that's just that you just threw that in there.
Well, I threw it in there, but so I like old books, right? And I have this old dictionary. It's enormous. I mean, it's like it's thick and very detailed. It's from like 1977 or something, because I don't trust anything written after the year 2000.
All right.
And it talks about, the definition of the word professor, and you can be self-professed and then you're a professor. And that appeals to me because you've got so many of these blue check mark, college
Gurus.
Quote professors, people that have been to college and studied bullshit. And it is bullshit, and it's been bullshit for a long, long time. I remember after my first divorce, and this was back in 2001, 2002, I had gone back to school because I never finished college, and I always felt bad about it for a while. Like, oh, I should. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. I'm the only one that didn't graduate college. So I have that going
The
for me.
black sheep.
I am totally the black sheep.
Yep.
And so I keep taking a stab at going back, and I'm in this college class, and this professor, for this English class is just a freaking moron, and I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
why are these people an authority on anything?
Yeah.
And why do we take them seriously? Because they have, masters or PhD after their name. Like, it's a joke to me. And so under the classical definition of the word professor, if you are a self-professed expert in anything, then you can call yourself a professor. And so I'm the professor of sociopath athleticism. I mean, I made it up, so there it is. But it's more of a, there's so many pieces of our language and culture that we need to reclaim from the lunatic left. And that's just, my attempt at it.
I like it. Self-style professor, but true to your nature and true to what you know. I like it.
So you said first divorce around 2000?
I was just about to say you're in good company here.
Yeah. I had my first divorce around 2000 as well.
Yeah. That was a if you go through and read those last two, not the last two, the one that he had on the screen with the squat rack, and then the most recent journal entry, it'll give you a picture of where I was. Well, that one's right before the most recent divorce. But the one before that is, I was in a really dark place around the year 2001, 2000. My best friend died of this really rare cancer, and it kind of fucked me up a little bit, and then my wife moved out while I was visiting him in the hospital one evening, and it was just it was a kick in the ass, and it led to wife number 2, which was a mistake, and it was a cope on my part, but that's that's a long story.
All right, so you got 2 divorces under your belt.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, that's why I'm not in a hurry to marry this one now.
I have one. I think Robert has 6.
2 official.
2 official. Okay.
Well done.
Yeah.
So between us, we have like 6.
We have exactly. There's 6. TJ's like you boomers.
But I think I still have more kids, bastards or otherwise, than a lot of
you probably do.
So
yeah, I have 2 that I know of. So
I have 4 that I know of, with at least the possibility of
Jesus,
others.
You guys. Fuck.
So,
with all of us, we've got like a zip code.
Yeah. I just remember reading something in my youth about going forth and multiplying. So
you took that quite literally, both of you.
That's it, man.
Nice.
I would have had more if I had been with the right woman, but after the second one with wife 2, I was like, yeah, this is not working out. We're not gonna.
Yeah.
As Kanye said, I was on the hook for 18 years already. I wasn't going to extend that.
Yeah. Seriously, shit. And how long have you been with your fiance?
Oh gosh, like 4 years.
Okay.
A while. It's basically, I mean, we own a house together. We have bank accounts together. Like, it's, for all intents and purposes, it's a married situation. Everybody thinks we're married, and that's fine with me.
Yeah. You're just not married by the state.
No, yeah, and the only reason why is I'm waiting for, so my daughter is going to be 17 here in a minute. My son's already 18, and so once they graduate in 2023, we'll probably make it official at that point. And this way, we can, have the wedding whenever we want, wherever we want, and they can be involved without worrying about mom having any veto authority
Mhm.
on the affair. So that's really all it is more out of logistics standpoint. And plus, I'll be able to afford a nicer honeymoon because I'll be not paying child support anymore.
Exactly. It's always a good thing. Opium Tales is agreeing with your baby making ideas.
Now, I'd have a lot more if the women in my past life had their way, but I said no because I didn't want more than I could, manage to take care of, both with financially and my attention span. Because
Yeah,
You know
no,
what?
I'm a man with a lot of interest. So
right. I have a question to you guys. Did you? Because I don't have like I've always said if I have kids, that'd be great. I'd be a good father. If I don't have kids, I'm fine with that. I don't have this burning like I fucking need kids to pass on my legacy. I don't give, and I know Rob's the same way. I don't give a shit about that. We just don't care. Now, do you guys growing up and when you're in your teens going, yeah, you know what? I think I want kids. Was that like a driving force for you guys?
For me, it kind of was. I like I said, I was the oldest of 6,
Hmm.
so I was the big brother. I mean, all the time, and I helped change diapers and do all that shit. So I always liked kids, and
Yeah.
I liked the idea of a big family. And I mean, I tell Sarah Beth all the time, if I had met her 25 years ago, we'd have half a dozen,
Shit. Yeah.
together because she's a great mom, and she's she's really good at it, and she's got her head on straight when it comes to that stuff. So, but that's I can't do anything about that, and when we got together, we both decided, okay, we're early 40s now, and we're not resetting the clock on this. So
Yeah, that's true.
we're gonna empty the nest and have a good time.
I like it. How about you, Robert? You the same way? You had yeah, I want kids.
well, it depends on how you look at it, because I'm the oldest of 8, youngest of 3, and an only child. So in the family in which I was raised, I am the oldest of 8 kids, but I'm the only one that has the same father as the rest of my siblings. I have 2 older sisters by my biological father, one of whom I've only met once, the other I've met a couple times and talked to via text and such. But I didn't find out about them until I was about 40 years old.
Oh,
So,
I remember that. Yeah, that's right.
So,
Jesus Christ.
no, I wanted to have at least 2 kids. One that was my namesake, and another son. I knew I was going to have sons. And so far, that's all I've made. And women in my life get told that right up. I don't care if you want a daughter. You're not getting a daughter. I only make boys. And you either accept that or you don't. So no, I wanted to have at least 2 kids. I like the idea of being a dad. It was also a part of just the thing to do, because in a lot of ways I was brought up and educated in the way of a world that no longer existed by the time I reached manhood. So those old ways, old rituals, duty, devotion, sacrifice for the family, put your career, and so I made all those mistakes, in my youth, and still carry around some of that stuff with me. But I mean, also part of that's just the literature and stuff I read growing up. You spend a childhood watching samurai films, Errol Flynn movies, reading The Three Musketeers, Robin Hood, and that kind of stuff, and you have a somewhat warped, over romanticized view of the world. And quite unintentionally, I lived too much of my life as some kind of Byronic hero, long before I had even heard of Byron or became somewhat familiar with any of his works. But that was all unintentional. It just, trying to be a decent person. And but anyway, yeah, I wanted to have at least a couple kids. But as I had new women in our serious relationships, they each got a child of their own. So there you have it.
Nice. Because I'll be 52 in February. I'm just glad I don't have any, to be honest with you. Yeah. I don't care.
It really depends. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, my kids have gotten more interesting as they've gotten older.
Mm.
You know, that's not to say that I didn't like them when they were younger, but I mean, you know, my son, you know, he's 18. He's your typical Zoomer meme lord, you know, and he's so red pilled. It kind of
that was one of my questions about. Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, he's a carbon copy of me in so many ways. He's got a lot to figure out still, but he will. I mean, I was slow to figure it out at his age, so he's already in many ways.
All were, yeah.
He's further along than I am, but less far along in other ways. It's circumstances are outside of his control in many cases, but it's just fascinating. You know, he'll send me a meme about, you know, World War I or something. I'm like, man, you know, this kid really knows what this was about. Like, you know, it's just it's crazy to me. You know, and I think, or at least I hope, that he's not alone in that generation with regards to kind of rejecting the official narrative and calling the bullshit for what it is. You know, we talk about, there's the recurring joke that, you know, the left can't meme. And the reason why is because what makes memes good is because they're true. And, you know, right now the left doesn't have any truth to its narrative.
There's truth in the humor. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what makes a meme really, really slap, as the kids say, is because there's a lot of truth in it. And it helps if it's, you know, contrarian in its nature and so forth. So that generation seems to really embrace it, which is what we need. Youthful rebellion is the only thing that's going to save society.
Absolutely. It's funny you're talking about the truth and the memes. The memes are now really the new comedians, because that used to be a comedian's job. They were like a walking, living, breathing meme. You know, George Carlin, you know, to some extent Dennis Miller, all the older generation. We don't see that anymore. Bill Burr a little bit, but
they got to be careful, you know.
Exactly.
And comedy is supposed to hurt. You know, somebody's feelings have to get hurt, and then we have to laugh at that. You know, and that's the whole point, is, you know, being able to laugh at somebody basically ripping on something stupid that another person is doing. And unfortunately, the left is giving us no shortage of that. So
it's a never-ending ammunition. Yeah, that's so true. That's very true. Along the lines of the kid question, TJ, you definitely want kids, don't you?
Yeah, no, Rob and I, back at the Village by the Sea meetup, we had a good chat about this, and I think he was really onto something. Is if you are a man who wants kids, you keep it to yourself. And the reason why, for whatever reason, is being a man who wants kids or to get married and have a family, it's seen as low status, and you're doing that because you don't have options. I'm not saying that that's the way it should be. That's not in a normal, healthy society. But if you want to have a family, this is kind of my conclusion, is you got to pretend like you don't want them and you don't really care. I don't really, when Rob was mentioning that to me, because he was making a point, he said, by announcing that or making that known, you've revealed to people what you want most and where they can control you. So that's where the grifters come in. Oh, you know, if you want to be a man, you know, want to be a real man, a family man, a father, whatever. Turn your BF. Oh boy. Okay. So I mean, it's like, yeah. At the same time, it's just you got to have like this level of no hurry, no rush, whatever. Not that you don't, but that's like it's very counterintuitive, but that was kind of just my conclusion was if you really want to have kids, because if you think about it, look around at the people who are having kids. These are people who didn't plan this stuff out, and they're just being, derpa. They're going through the motions. They put their kids in the government schools, and they want the government to raise them, and they really don't. I just see a lot of people that my conclusion is they just did it because it's almost as if to get married and have kids today, you have to be asleep at the wheel in a lot of cases, like for the vast majority of people, because there's this, I don't fully have an explanation for it, but when I see guys who who don't really want kids, but they had them, it's like, well, you could have stopped, like there are ways of stopping pregnancies now. So like, but it's because they're just passively going through life. So yeah, that's kind of been my thought. It's just, I kind of keep it to myself. I know I'm saying this on a public video, but I'm sure the women that I converse with do not watch Masculine Geek and aren't aware of my alternative activities. But
I came on this video because there were lots of chicks, right? That's not happening. Where are the groupies?
In the background, yeah.
Oh, it's funny. It's like, yeah, I could tell stories, but it's just funny how I tend to not tell some girls my last name because they obviously do the Google thing. They Google who you are, and I'm like, oh,
I've had that.
If some of them had any idea, because they say stuff. It's like, yeah, if you think that that's offensive, just wait until you have my thoughts on the 19th Amendment. But
there's actually,
I would just, if someone were to say, do you want kids, or what do you thought about family?
There's some truth in that, though, in what you're saying and what Rob is saying, in not necessarily announcing your intent, because, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, I let wife number 2 know that when we first met that was my goal, was to be a family man and all that, and I felt like I had to, because wife number 1, I didn't make that clear. It was more of a I mean, the story of my first marriage is hilarious, and
oh shit, do tell.
Stupid. Well,
I want to hear this.
I want to hear that shit. Yeah.
So wife number 1, we were talking about motorcycles earlier. I met while I was 19 years old, and I'm living in Scottsdale, Arizona, and my buddies and I used to go down to Mill Avenue on like Friday, Saturday nights and ride motorcycles, because it was the cool thing to do, was to cruise. Mill Avenue is like the college town for ASU, Arizona State. And if anybody knows anything about Arizona State, it's a big party school, lots of girls. That's why I went to school there. And, so you cruise up and down Mill and you pick up girls, right? Well, that's where I found her, was cruising up and down Mill, and she had a nice rack, and it was like, hey, you want to go for a ride? And
that's all you need.
So, you don't think too hard about the personality or anything else at that age.
That's non-existent.
No.
So you needed a headrest while you were on your bike.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes it comfortable. You can lean back into that. So.
If your head whips back on this quick stop, you got a cushion.
Exactly. So, no, we were just dating, and then we started cohabitating. Because that's like these things, like you talk about autopilot, and that's kind of what happened to me.
It's a progression, yeah.
And I was working my way out of abject poverty at the time. Because when I quit school, my old man was pissed, rightly so. And so he, cut me off, rightly so. And, so I had nothing but the motorcycle, and that was it. So, I started, the call center job at America Online, and there's a story about that on the website, and was just working my way up. And so I'm in this like shitty apartment in shitty neighborhood, because not all of Scottsdale is girls with plastic surgery. There's some sketchy parts in South Scottsdale, and that's where I was. And so I'm looking for this nice apartment in this nice part of town, and and they're like, okay, well, who's living here? I'm like, well, it's me and my girlfriend. And like, okay, well, she needs a security deposit too. And I'm like, really? But and they're like, well, unless you're married. I'm like, oh, okay. So we went out and got married, came back, and I only had to pay 1 security deposit. No fucking joke. That's how it happened.
Jesus.
And so, which is stupid.
I've heard worse reasons to do it. So
well, I'm sure there are. I'm not saying it's a world record, but it's up there. And so, so I got married to save on a security deposit, which, was moronic. So it ended badly, but it could have been worse. Didn't have any children with that one, so that was good. She was a mess. She didn't want to have kids, which was like, I thought like, well, maybe I should have asked her that beforehand, because I wanted to have kids. So with the second one, I was like asking all of them beforehand, and you're right. When you declare your intent that overtly and you're that focused on that one thing, some girl's gonna see that as an easy paycheck and latch onto that.
Their meal ticket. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is, the meal ticket. And so that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, I think I can't remember. I think it was maybe Rollo, but he said that you don't want a woman who wants to have kids. You want a woman who wants to have your babies. And I think that the attitude for a man is to say, I don't want to get married and have kids. I want that woman to have my kid, or whatever the masculine way of saying it is.
Yeah, get all the other shit sorted out first.
Yeah.
Because if she checks all the other boxes, then it's like, yeah, I'll have kids with you, sure, because your blowjob game is solid. So
right.
I mean, you're basically deciding that, okay, from a fiscal and kind of emotional stability standpoint, you want to be with this woman for at least the next 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has to be the kind of woman you want to be with for 20 years, or longer, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I didn't figure that part out until, I'm with number 3 now. And so that's, but that's why like the long engagement's not really a problem, because, she's in the same boat. She's not, we're not, we're not all virgins here or anything like that. We know what goes on, and it's more about, okay, is the relationship solid, and then go from there. So
yeah, that's true.
So it's a really weird situation where to get something you have to not, at least at the very least, you have to pretend like you don't want it. I think the other thing people get confused with when they say when a guy or
you can't lay it out like a goddamn itinerary.
Well, no, and you can't be attached to it.
Yeah. Well, they also, they interpret it as, I'm just looking to get married, and who it happens to be. Like, it's kind of like a joke that one family friend we used to say about her was that she had her wedding planned out. She just needed a guy to stand where the groom's supposed to be. Meaning,
she needed a warm body. Yeah.
Right. She needed a warm body. So I think that's one of the problems of that attitude, and also people. I don't care what background they're from or whatever, they interpret it as a sense of desperation, and that you will basically, people try and set you up, or they try to do matchmaking, and it's just the sheer lack of social graces when it comes to trying to set people up nowadays. Where 75-year-old women think that they can just awkwardly throw somebody in front of somebody and think that that's just the way it's gonna it's just
Did a 75-year-old woman throw someone in front of you, TJ?
No, I'm giving.
Okay. I don't know.
Well, no, I'm just saying
it's kind of sad.
I can tell you from earlier experiences in my life when I was more open about this kind of stuff. People, it just triggers just the retarded spurginess in people everywhere, and so I just. I was like, you just don't want to deal with that stuff. And yeah, you got to be comfortable with being comfortable with it not happening. And honestly, I was talking to a friend of mine who has wanted to have kids, but they're just having married. And they said, yeah, but think about it. Would you really want to be having kids or would you want to be raising kids right now with everything that's going on? And I was thinking, well, I just started World War III already over some of this stuff if I had kids. So, maybe for this, yeah.
That retort never set well with me. I don't to have kids now. Like we've always had some kind of turmoil going on, and it never stopped anyone from fucking and having kids.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, that's how we got here. Is because
that's
our
I mean,
ancestors were like, you know,
they're referring to me personally, and they're not referring to everybody. Saying, are you in a position where you'd be able to do? Like, I've had a bunch of stuff go on over the last couple of years where having kids on top of that would have been. Sorry, I should have clarified. This is them referring to me personally, not to other people. Saying you weren't in a spot where you would have been able to deal with all this stuff, all the shenanigans and all the nonsense on top of having kids. I'm in a much better position in my life now than I was a while ago. But
gotcha.
I think that also, I don't know. You're right. There's never the right time to have kids, but there are some wrong times to have kids.
Well, there's some, like you're saying, there's some glaringly obvious. If you're just broke as a fucking joke and you don't have your shit together, then yeah, you probably shouldn't be having children. If you're self-aware enough. Unfortunately, most people, the majority of people, are not self-aware enough, and they are just having just children. They just don't fucking care. But
I want to change the subject just a little bit. Something Noble said a while ago. This was a while back, buddy. Somebody had tweeted, I think it was a woman. I don't even remember what she or he said, but I remember your reply to them was something along the lines of, so you had said something along the lines of, so is monogamy absolute? You know, is that the point here? You know, like, is monogamy, you know, do we have to do monogamy basically? And I even responded where I was like, no. What's your take still, buddy?
On monogamy?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. You know, people talk about, you know, my favorite thing is when the religious sorts come at you to shout down monogamy. And I say, okay, because I'm a Christian, but I'm non-denominational, and I'm fundamental, but not in the way you'd think. And you know, just to give you some context, I mean, my old man, you know, he quit his job at about my age, sold his business, and went to seminary because he, you know, born again and had kind of that late phase conversion. So he really beat me over the head with that, you know, when I was in my early 20s, and I didn't take to it too well right away, but then I started to come around a little bit. So I've done a lot of reading, you know, a lot of discussion with him and with other people. I was really active in a church in my 30s and so forth. And one of the things that always amused me was, you know, the Christian right will accuse the left of, you know, leaving pieces out of the Bible or taking it out of context, but they're as guilty of it as the next. Mm-hmm. And I say that because, you know, that's in true. The context of monogamy and sexual purity and all that, there's two examples in the Old Testament I like to point to. One is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Mm-hmm. And so Lot was deemed to be the only righteous man in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And that's why God told him to get out, take his wife and his two daughters and get out. And he did. And then, you know, the story, his wife, he was told not to look back. Someone
got burned with some salt.
She got, you know, pillar of salt, that kind of thing. But nobody talks about what happened after that.
Although there's a genre for it on Pornhub, so
you know. Yeah. So what happens after that is that they're hiding out in a cave, and Lot and his daughters get drunk, and his daughters decide, well, we have to repopulate the area, and so they're having sex with their old man.
They're banging their daddy.
Yeah, and so
that's where that comes from, daddy.
That's a little bit peculiar, and he was the righteous man, right? He was the one that God chose to save out of all these deviants, and then that's what he does right after it happens. So, and then the second example I like is, you know, the Bible is huge. I mean, all throughout the New Testament about making sure you are fully aware, and they get into all the genealogy that Jesus Christ is descended from King David. Mm-hmm. Like, it has to be from the line of David, otherwise he's not the Messiah, right? Yeah. And what do we know about King David? I mean, do we know the number of wives and women he had?
Nope.
You know, I mean, it's outrageous. You know, I mean, he was a guy that saw a woman he liked, and you know, when they told him that she was married, he sent her husband off to war so he'd die and he could have the woman. You know, I mean, I'm you know, giving you the Reader's Digest version. There's more to it, but that's basically it. You know, he was, you know, he was grade A poon hound throughout the Old Testament, and so I think there's a there's a lot of misunderstanding as far as you know, monogamy, sexual purity, all that stuff goes.
Yeah.
You know, from all sides of the equation there, and the you know, my take on it is that it's, you know, if it works for you, great, but if it doesn't, then
Also great.
you know, fine. As long as everybody involved is okay with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
know?
Yeah.
So-
Perfect. Thank
Yep,
you.
that's
That's
exactly it.
that's what I was wanting to know. Thank you.
So, because, you know, I talk to young men all the time that are, you know, looking for guidance and advice on this sort of thing. And, you know, they'll be like, well, I'm trying to, you know, find a girl at my church group and all that other stuff. I'm like, yeah, you know, you got to watch out for that, because they're there for one thing. You know, the girls who go to church are only going to church as long as it takes to hook a husband, you know. And it's, you know, it gets back to your point about, you know, be careful about declaring your intention, because that's their intention. You know, they've declared it whether you realize it or not, and you got to be mindful of that. You know, find a good girl. I don't care. You know, that's great. That should be everybody's goal. But don't put yourself in a silo when it comes to that kind of thing, because you know, you're going to get taken advantage of.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Rob has his shitty Bud Light. What are you drinking, Noble?
Right now, it is Cherry Coke Zero.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm not sure what's worse, the Bud Light or the shitty Coke Zero.
Hey, you know, it's the 0 calorie hack.
Gotcha.
I'm going to have a whiskey here in a minute, though. She's just asked me.
I like it.
And,
Cool.
check it out.
And while that's happening, and Rob, I didn't ask you. We went around the table, so to speak. Kids, was that ever on the table for you, or you just didn't give a shit either?
I was more like you. I figured if it happened, great, and I would do the best I could to be the best father I could be. But if it didn't, it's fine.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
how that ended. And now being 50, I'm like, yeah,
Like, I don't think so.
Rugrats around. No thanks.
Hey, come on. Mick Jagger was way older than you.
Yeah, except I don't have Mick Jagger's money.
They don't have to know that.
That's true.
Good point.
That is true.
Well, I don't know that I'd want to be changing diapers again at 53.
Yeah, so you hire someone to change
but
diapers.
Well, I'm going to ask everyone. I already kind of know TJ's answer, but to ask Robert, Vince, I think I know Vince's answer, but even you, Noble, here's my hypothetical. Since we just brought up, you know, being older and not wanting to raise Rugrats.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've made it very clear that I don't want to raise Rugrats. That doesn't mean I'm against siring Rugrats. Now, granted, with the legal system and everything being what it currently is, that's another thing. But more as a rhetorical, hypothetical question, am I wrong in for the idea that it's like,
No,
I'll give you kids, lady, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stick around.
No, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I was thinking about this not too long ago. It's like, you know what? I just want to blow my load in this chick. If she gets pregnant, I don't want anything to do with it. I just want to blow and have a kid and let her go take care of it, knowing that that is out there and I don't have to deal with it. Yeah, okay, I could see that.
I'm all right with that.
I'm strangely okay with there's something like almost like a dog pissing on a fire hydrant or marking its territory. There's something about a guy doing that and just having at it. I don't know what you guys feel, how you feel about that. I mean, TJ's turning red, but Just like, hey, I really want to blow my load in this chick, and then and take my leave.
Go
and
out for
take
a
my
pack
leave.
of
I'm like,
smokes.
that's
That's right. Go out for a pack of smokes and never come back.
Exactly. So I understand what you're saying, Rob. Yeah, it doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while, I'm like, there's something about this chick. It's like, yeah, I'd totally do it. Yeah.
I think it you know.
This is gonna be good.
Well, it changes your perspective when you have the kid. Because here's this little fucker running around just wanting to be just like you, and it's like, all right, this is pretty fucking cool, and
that's a good
and
point,
I think there is I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their life one way or the other. I personally would feel an ethical responsibility to the child, at least at some point.
Now, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just talking about the the primal urge. Yeah.
Believe me, I talk about being a successful barbarian. The world's most successful barbarian was Genghis Khan.
He was blowing his load everywhere. Yeah.
He was so successful, everybody in Asia is related to him. Okay. So, I understand that, and I'm not a critic of that. But until we're all warlords, and we've established ourselves as having the apex seed that's worth spreading like that, then there is something to be said for, okay, I have produced this child, and I do have at least a middling responsibility to make sure he or she is not a piece of shit. And that's where dad comes in.
Yeah.
Because
I totally agree with you.
Moms can raise the kids, but they can't make men, and they can't make well-balanced women.
No, moms should raise the kids in a more focused sense up until about 4 or 5, and then he gets turned over to the father, and he teaches them the way of the world, how to negotiate and deal with and draw boundaries with the world.
I talked to I'm in this this men's group, and we talk about this all the time. And one of the guys that I talked to, he's really smart, good dude, and he talks about how when he's done a lot of study on it himself, and he seems to be convinced that boys are meant to be attached to their mothers until about the age of 10 or 11. That they need their mothers for validation, security, all that stuff. But at about that age, they need to learn that their validation needs to be conditional and internal. In other words, your value is not just because mom says you're awesome. Your value is what you can produce and give back to the world. That's where your validation should come from. And this is, we have a generation of men that have been raised on everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
And that's a feminine imperative. Is that, you're good enough, honey. Everybody, you're special. But why?
Yeah.
Actually, you need to be special. Like you need
it's unearned entitlement.
It is. And that's where dad is supposed to come in and, teach you to get dirty and do hard work and all that. And that's the way my old man was. I mean, he worked his ass off. I hardly saw him when I was a young kid, because he was building a business and doing all that. But by the time it was a little earlier than 10 or 11, I would say 6 or 7, it's like, okay, when I saw my dad, the time I spent with him was like on hunting trips, or, he was coaching my football team or baseball team. And the validation that I got from my dad was when I did something right there. Like, okay, I killed a deer, or, shot a duck out of the sky, or, hit a home run, or, got an A on a test where everybody failed because I was smarter than everybody. That was real validation. Like, okay, you did something that was worth saying, hey, good job, kid. But whereas a mother will look at your, shitty crayon drawing and say, oh my God, that's beautiful. I got to hang that on the fridge. That's great when you're 4, but what you have is men that are raised with that shit all the way up until they're 18, 20, 25,
Yeah.
Like, oh, you graduated kindergarten. Let's have a ceremony. Fuck that.
Yeah,
Why are
right.
you having a ceremony for the most mediocre shit? You know, and that's where dad is supposed to step in and say, yeah, no, that sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a formative moment of mine. I was in a wrestling tournament when I was 6 years old, and I'll never forget this. And I finished 4th place. You know, tournament 4th place is not bad. And so but back then, this is the 80s. You know, you got like a patch. You didn't get a trophy or a medal. And I'm like, oh, look, Dad, I got a patch. He's like, okay, that sucks. Go win next time. You know, it was like paraphrasing, but that's basically what his reaction was. Like, yeah, so what?
Yeah.
4th place.
Hey, if you're not first, you're last.
Exactly. It was totally basically that. Yeah, Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
Like, you're not first, you're last. Like, it was like, okay, so if I'm going to impress my old man, I have to actually beat everybody.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's how it was, and that's how it should be.
Well, there's a story. Herb Brooks was the coach at Minnesota. He coached in New York for the Rangers in hockey. But probably what he's best known for is coaching the 1980 Olympic gold medal team that beat the Soviets. He was on the 60 team up until the very end, and he got cut. He's even in the team photo for Team USA 1960, and Herb Brooks is cut right after that. He's home watching the hockey game with his dad. That U.S. team wins the gold medal, which is the last time they do for 20 years.
Yep.
And his dad looks over at him on the couch and goes, well, looks like the coach cut the right guy, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, that put a fire in his belly. That's
and it did.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
but that's interpreted as being mean,
abusive,
and
exactly,
abusive, and verbally abusive. Yeah. And
my guess is the way that the dad said it was kind of like, what are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Like not a you're a loser, but you got to be better.
Yeah. That falls under the, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about.
Well, it was funny also, Herb Brooks, when he was putting together his team for the 1980 Olympics, he came to them and said, I'm going to be your coach. I'm not going to be your friend.
Mm-hmm.
If you need a friend, those guys over there, like a lot of the stuff from the film Miracle was the actual stuff he said. And so he kept a emotional distance from his players, and a lot of stuff that he did drove him crazy, but he got the results. And I think that he had that edge. And going to what Noel was saying, that what mothers do if they're left unchecked by the father, they will actively try to smooth out a boy's natural edge as he's developing, where he starts becoming aggressive. Women, this is something I'm reflecting. Women, especially middle-aged women, get very profoundly uncomfortable and borderline hysterical when they see a young man showing signs of just that he's beyond their control. Like there's an aggression, or he's just like, he's finally has testosterone in his body, and he's like behaving and asserting himself in a way that they like. Women do not understand male aggression, and they don't understand inner male, like, I guess, violence, for lack of a better word. Where
it's but you know what? At the bottom line, biologically, they're not supposed to.
Right, but that's one of the problems, is that they raise men whose edges have been completely, basically been emasculated.
I mean, there's an old African proverb that essentially says the older men have to take the younger men in hand, otherwise they'll burn down the village.
Yeah.
Like they need mentors. The young men, sons, friends, need older mentors.
Yeah,
teach them the way of the world.
Yeah, Rob, I am going to answer your question in a sense. Yes, there are women out there that I've encountered where it's like, yes, on an aesthetic level, we would be interested in, or not interested. What's the word? I can't think of the word, but the idea of having a kid with them.
Blowing your load?
Sure.
Just say it, TJ. Just say it.
Like, yes, you have what happened to Rub?
I don't know.
Oh, I guess we got too coarse and lewd for him.
I know, right?
No, but I'd say in this environment that is one of the things, just with all the laws that are going around and all other stuff like that, because What will make a woman keep a guy around is the fact that a guy like cares or wants to be the father or wants to be involved. That will be used as a weapon against him. So it's this weird kind of going back to what I was talking about with the marriage thing of a guy who's on the surface, on outwardly, he's indifferent. It causes people to want to earn because they value it. They value his his care because he's giving so little of it out. It's like almost an economic thing. Like, so I don't know. I found that's kind of how people just respond to that kind of stuff. So
that's true.
Have kids or have a great. Yeah, I think I can wait a couple more years. I'm not. No joke. There's
still
women
young.
there's women I've encountered my age who are like the baby rabies. Like, whatever word we want to use is just clearly obvious, and they go crazy. So, not those women. Those are not women where I look at them and say, "Yeah, I don't have a kid with that." Oh,
what the fuck, Rob?
My internet took a shit.
Took a shit. I hate when that happens. It couldn't handle the blowing the load comments.
Apparently not.
No, Rob is a very delicate creature, and he has very
oh yeah.
We have to use very clean language and use, polite words like, I would like to sire an offspring with this young fair maiden.
TJ is really projecting now.
Yeah.
Shit.
For myself, I think it's a blast having a kid in the house still at this age. That's the one thing. I'm a much better dad at 53 than I was at 21. And I think all of my sons would agree to that. And as far as the younger two, it's kind of cool to still be a hero. Although the one boy's 21 and he still kind of looks up to me quite a bit. His next oldest brother, who's in his 30s, at least I think understands me better now. And the 7-year-old just thinks I'm awesome. And that's absolutely wonderful. And so that all part of it is cool. I'm actually a much more patient, knowledgeable dad. So I have a lot more I can teach them as far as boundaries and also how to not let other people set those boundaries in certain ways, especially not women. And because I mean, all of my boys, the older two were 8 and 9 when their mother and I split up, and she played some evil head games on them, but it wasn't but a couple years after the divorce that, they're 10, 11, 12, 13, and testosterone's coursing through their body, and overnight they're a foot taller than their mother, and she's trying to tell them what to do, and they're looking at her like, who are you, little woman, to tell me what to do? What are you going to do about it? You can't move me. You can't physically bend me over your knee and spank me. Even if you did, it would tickle. It wouldn't hurt because I'm now twice the man you will ever be, and I'm not finished growing yet. So, I would get the calls late at night. I can't deal with them. You need to come over and do this, because they won't listen to me. And the new man I brought into the life, they have no respect for, and he even tries to touch them, they lay him out. So police get involved and all the other fun stuff. And it's like, oh, so now you need me, and more than just the child support checks you get every month. So yeah, I don't miss that, but the other stuff, but having that knowledge and having that experience, good and bad and otherwise, I can at least share that with the boys. And in the case of my older boys, they have a much better understanding of how things work. When mom packs up everything and leaves the day before Thanksgiving and takes you over to grandma's house, and you don't ever come home until daddy's gone, daddy didn't leave you. Daddy, you were taken from daddy. But that's hard to understand when you're 8 years old. It's a little bit easier to understand when you're in your 30s.
Yeah, I had a similar, custody battle when it came to mind. My kids were in their early teens, and right after everything was final in divorce, and we thought we had everything sorted out, she fled the state.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I only have my kids briefly, throughout the year because they're in Texas most of the time.
Right.
And I've seen similar developments with my own son. Now, like I said, he's 18. And I stay connected to him. Do a lot of online gaming with him. Which is the only real video gaming I do anymore. I spent too much time with it in my 30s.
Right.
But it's a good way to, because your teenage kids don't want to just call you on the phone.
No.
But he'll spend 3 or 4 hours with me, playing World of Warcraft or Fortnite or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I'll hear in the background, his mother will, she liked to yell a lot. She still does.
Mm-hmm.
And now he just kind of claps back like, yeah, I'll do it when I want to, and I think the rebellious nature that teenagers have, both men and women, is something that we squash too much.
Yeah.
We spend too much time trying to condition that out of them, and that's a mistake because at some point, you got to cut the apron strings and let them go out and maybe even fuck things up a little bit. But keep them from ending up in jail or seriously wounded or whatever.
Yeah,
but other than that, you got to let them figure these things out.
Mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's lessons you can learn, and then there's lessons you got to earn.
Yeah.
And it's the earned lessons that are the ones that stick. So.
Yeah, the burnt hand remembers best.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, I think the other thing about parents not controlling their kids too much is that if you don't let them make their own choices on some stuff, I'm not saying like, something really stupid, but let's say he just wants to go do something that has a little bit of risk. They're never going to know who they truly are, or they're going to struggle with it because it's like, well, I did these things because I was told to and I wasn't allowed to do anything otherwise. And so that causes kids from that background to kind of wonder, well, what would my life have been if I had been allowed to choose what I want to do?
Well, that's the thing is when they're on their own, they don't know how to choose their own. I didn't realize it at the time, but my dad was very much about getting us out on our own. When I was even, and this was even in the early 80s, it was irregular. My father sent me away to a summer camp in Maine. Now I grew up in Maryland, so this is 1,200 miles north, and I was there for like 8 weeks, and I didn't know anybody, and I was like 8 years old, and people looked at me like, "Your parents not like you or something? What was that about?" And I was like, it sucked for a day, and then it was awesome,
Right.
like I could just do whatever I mean, it was a camp, so you can only do so much, but it's like I didn't have parental supervision, and I didn't have somebody telling me what I had to do. It was, show up at the mess hall if you want to eat breakfast, but if you sleep in, then you're just going to go hungry till lunch, stuff like that. And
it was this unstructured structure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good for you to learn how to be responsible, and that started for me at a very young age, and that was actually a really good thing.
Teaches you self-reliance too.
Yeah, and you need to know that, and
Absolutely.
the sooner the better.
Oh yeah, this is very true. You back with us now, Rob? We can't hear you now. You're fucking muted.
Dang it, Verb.
As far as I know, at least for the next 5 fucking minutes anyway. So, yeah.
Awesome. The internet backbone in Utah is doing well tonight, I see.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Nice. Now, what do you got? Complete subject change. What do you got going on in the background there? Is that another housing development behind you, or is that woods?
No, I'm in the middle of the city.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm still in the city of Phoenix. I'm in like North Phoenix. And
okay.
so my neighbor's got palm trees, which looks nice, but it's a pain in the ass when they fall into my pool back here.
Well, I imagine so. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, but yeah, no, it's nice. We Sarah Beth and I were renting for a while in Scottsdale when we started living together, and then she spent a year and a half looking for this house.
Hmm.
I just let her kind of drive the bus on that because, women are the homemakers, and she found a really, really good spot here in a really kind of a gem of a neighborhood. So we're close to everything, but we're still in kind of like a cul-de-sac that's on the end of a cul-de-sac. It's a dead end street each way.
Oh, nice.
So there's not a lot of traffic through here, but you can still hear all the noise of the city around you.
Mhm.
Okay. I thought I heard a few what sound like planes taking off.
Yeah, you got helicopters,
Yeah.
flying overhead, rounding up crackheads or whatever. So
Nice.
keeps it
No.
interesting.
I know Arizona gets a monsoon season. Is that the same for all parts of the state, or just like the southern portion?
The southern portion that's out of, I mean, the mountainous regions will get a little bit of it, but it's really the desert that gets it, the most. So it's not bad.
Gotcha. Pardon me. Cool. Very cool. I wanted to ask you about your website, and it just went out of my fucking head because I'm old. I'll think of it. I just signed up for your newsletter, so that's good. How often do you put that out? Is that like just random, or is it like every week?
I don't have a weekly. I should.
Hmm.
Everybody talks about how you canceled on social media any minute, so you should have an email list.
Hmm.
So kind of why I did it. But I only when I have something, to say. I don't sell a lot over it. I don't. It's just okay. I've written an article. Here it is. Kind of thing. So
yeah, we put out a newsletter every Monday for almost 3 years, and then I did ran out of things to say. So now it's whenever. It's good that, like you said, it's good to have that email list.
Yeah, no, I would like to be more regular with it, but
well, it's sometimes the inspiration's just not there or you just have nothing to say, or just you don't care. There's some things that sound good in your fucking head, and when you go to put it out, and you're like, yeah, this is not going to translate well to the public via this medium. It's not going to work. So,
well, some things people just don't need to.
Exactly. But there's certain, like, that's another, going back to not talking about things and tipping your hand to certain things. There are instances where I won't talk about certain projects. I'll make outlines myself, or tell very few people. But you start talking about it. You've done it. You've already completed that task, as it were, by talking about it, and the inspiration and the drive to actually do it and make it real is less at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I can totally, unfortunately, relate to that.
Right. So unless with strict discipline, doing what you just said you were going to do, if you've told it in detail, and you're like, well, I've already talked about it. I've already done it in my head, so I don't need to actually physically do it. So I've struggled with that in the past before. So that's why I don't talk about it too much. I try not to. So
you said you moved out to the American Southwest when you were a teenager for college, and obviously you've hung out there. Is that because you do have the kids down in Texas, or did you just fall in love with that part of the country, Noble? Or
yeah, it's an interesting story. The back in '87, my old man was big on family vacations. He would, because he ran his own business, he could set his own schedule. So in the summer we would do big trips, and so we did this cross country trip where we flew out to like Montana, rented a van, and then drove all over the place, like Glacier Park, Yellowstone, all down the West Coast, saw all the big parks, and then we got to Arizona, did Grand Canyon, Tombstone, Meteor Crater, all that stuff, and we were driving from Phoenix out to LA for the last part of the trip, and the van broke down. And so we're stuck on the side of the road in like western Maricopa County for hours. My dad gets out and starts walking back to the nearest exit, gets picked up by this couple in an RV. They pick us up, take us back to the airport because the rental company couldn't sort us out. And we just flew to LA. But I was struck by the aesthetic of the area while I was here. I liked the, and even at that age, I started thinking about kind of the history of the Southwest and the sort of the rugged nature of it. Arizona was the last state admitted to the Union before Alaska and Hawaii. It wasn't even a state until 1912. There's something frontier-like and a little bit out there about it. And so I and then when I was in high school, I butted heads with my dad a lot. And it's because, we're both type A personalities. And, it was sort of what he had conditioned me to do, is to be this rebellious young man. And for me, that meant I got to get as far away from this guy as possible because I can't stand him. And I love my dad now. It's a much better, relationship than it was when I was 17. But we're looking at colleges, and so I had two on my list, and hang on here, I got my lovely assistant bringing me my power cable.
Yeah, but you're gonna need an extension cord.
It can plug in right there.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, gentlemen. So we're looking at schools, and there we go. Thank you. And so I was down to like CU Boulder and Arizona State, and we visited Arizona State first. And the guy giving me the tour, very cleverly, one of the first stops on the campus tour is the fitness center, and then they have a big pool out back. And I get to the pool, and there's all these girls suntanning out there, and it's like blonde Central Station. And I'm like, Pop, I think I'm going to go to school here. And so that's how that kind of ended up. So I lived here for like 10 years. I actually spent 8 years in Northern California with wife number 2. And picturesque up there. I was in El Dorado County, which is between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe, but everything else about it sucked. And so I couldn't wait to get back here. I was working at Intel at the time, and they had a factory down here. So I transferred down here to buy my first house, and I've never left. And wife too didn't like the climate after a while. That's why she wanted to bug out. But I think she just wanted to get away from me when we split up. So yeah, I like it here. I love it here.
Cool. You staying there, or any plans to move, or your roots are set and that's it?
Not anytime soon. I mean, obviously, the economic and political climate, it's not as favorable here as it is in some place like, Texas or Florida, which are the only other two places I'd consider moving to.
Right. Yeah. How many
I'm not overly
refugees from California are you getting?
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
California and the Pacific Northwest. I mean, it's incredible. We're getting flooded by them, but so that's certainly kind of problematic in some ways. But Texas has the same problem. Florida has the same problem. Everybody's trying to get out of these blue states, and go where they can walk around without wearing a diaper on their face. But
seriously,
and then vote exactly to make.
If I were to move,
yeah,
I know it's aggravating, but no, I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay.
That's cool. And the weather, I mean, for the most part, it's ideal, especially if you're getting a motorcycle again. It's a good place to be. Texas, Florida.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, Texas is appealing. Yeah. Texas is appealing because I have two brothers out there, and they're doing pretty well out there. I've got a brother in the Florida Keys now, so
okay.
So that's appealing. But yeah, so I don't really see a move happening anytime soon.
Gotcha. Yeah, TJ's up in Washington.
Yeah.
What part of Washington?
I live kind of up near the mountains, near a state highway. So I used to live in the center of the state. Now I'm living more on the western side. So it's still a rural area. What's that? Say it again.
I have a sister in Seattle, so I've been there a few times.
Okay. Yeah. It's I've been living here my whole life, and I keep talking with Vince about moving, but we'll see. I'm doing kind of what it's called a test period, where I'm trying to see if I can make it work here over the next couple of months. And if not,
get the fuck out. Yep.
Right. So yeah, I'm just also trying to go into this with a realistic attitude of, moving is not going to solve. It's not going to be like entirely good stuff. There's going to be downsides to moving across the country. So I want to do this a little bit more sober-minded.
Yeah, I'm not actually a big fan of the bail out of the cities fad that seems to be going on. A lot of people talk about, well, I want to, just start homesteading in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, I'm not giving
up.
Like,
you know anything about that?
Well, the other problem is with these rural areas that they want to go to, they think it's something out of a Norman Rockwell painting, when in reality, these rural areas are just as dysfunctional. I've seen some of them where there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of, there's meth dealers. You got just, for lack of a better word, you just got a lot of white trash who they're just dysfunctional. And so you can move to a rural area, but you're also going to want to have a social life. And so if you're a functioning, healthy person, you might be a little bit alone when you go to the bar, and you're talking to Bubba, who's got two kids from two different moms, and that's a completely just imaginary analogy, but that's the kind of thing that can happen to some of these guys I know, where they go out in these very remote areas and there's just no other jobs there, and then they work online or something like that, thinking that's going to solve everything.
Yeah, no, I did the rural lifestyle for about 14 years with wife too, because she's antisocial. She likes living in the middle of nowhere, and so I did that when I was in Northern California. It was middle of nowhere, and then even when I moved back here, I was in a little town called Tonopah on the west side, and you won't be able to find that on the map, and it's a pain in the ass. I mean, you're 45 minutes to the nearest anything, whether it's a Walmart or a movie theater or a decent restaurant. And so if, to your point, if you want a social life, you want any kind of life, it's difficult, and you're going to be kind of cloistered and sort of stuck with whoever your neighbors are.
Exactly.
Whereas if you live in a suburban or urban area, you've got options, and you've got opportunity.
Why rent. Yep, can move around. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I could do it again, I would not have raised my children in their formative years in that kind of a setting, because they didn't have access to things like, little league teams and after school activities and, friends they could just go over to that, I could trust to leave them with overnight, for a sleepover, shit like that. It starts to add up. It has a cumulative effect on, on your mindset and what you're exposed to. And one of the things I've done since my divorce is tried really hard to expose my kids to more than what they see in the rural lifestyle that they have with their mother. Because even now in Texas, they're in the middle of nowhere, and so it's very limiting. And I think that's a disservice, especially if you are thinking of having children. One, it's going to limit your options as far as the dating pool is concerned.
Exactly.
But two, it limits your opportunities for both yourself and your family, and I don't subscribe to that. I think it's fine, like once you're an old fart like me, and you want to just you're sick of people, and you want to just raise cattle and tell people to get off the lawn. That's fine, but wait until you're done with the family life.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fort Worth
about that.
Playboy. I don't know if you guys follow him on Twitter.
I've
he's
heard
ranted about that on a number of occasions, about how everybody talking about the idyllic rural lifestyle is not it, and I agree with him on his points there. It's because I've lived it, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, especially if you're a bachelor. It's just it's really difficult to meet. And depending on what type of man you are and what your standards are, if they're low enough, there'll be women there. But I'd say that if you're looking for all the young girls go to the cities. They stay in the cities. They come back to the rural areas after a certain point, but that's when they're not young and typically single. But yeah, I would recommend most young men who are bachelors, like, well, what should I do? I was like, yeah, don't do the whole live in the woods type thing. And yeah, you have to drive to go anywhere. There's not a lot of just unless it's a really strong community, in which case, see what happens with that. But there's also, you got to drive to go do pretty much anything that you want. If there's an event that's going on, you got to drive. If you need to go to get stuff at the hardware store, you got to drive. And if I could do it all, well, I'm not going to have any regrets, but one of the things, if I was going to move from where I live now, I would be moving into a city. I want to live in a place where I don't need a vehicle to get to where I want to go. I want to be able to walk. That was one of the things I appreciated about those cities in Europe. I was in Bayeux, in Normandy, and the city was very walkable. So I could see why people in Europe, at least in those areas, don't need cars and are probably just in better shape because they're just walking everywhere.
The train systems are pretty good.
Yeah.
And the public transportation. We don't. Well, not every city, but I don't know. State to state, we don't have the railways that I think that we should have, given our technology. We just don't have I think anyway. I think we should have. We should be further along with our rail infrastructure and technology than we are. We were talking about a little while ago, TJ, as far as the ease at which you can travel on train. I mean, there's no TSA. There's no security. You just get your ticket, take your shit, and get on the train.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, what's funny is some of the... Go on ahead, Noble, please.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, to that point, I was commuting 90 minutes each way to get to work when I was living in the rural area. It was a pain in the ass. Nowadays everybody's working remote, so maybe less of a factor, although good luck getting good internet access in the sticks. But
that's it too, yeah.
It's a hassle on multiple levels, and people don't really take that in consideration. I mean, if you want to live in a remote area, you'd better be pretty self-sufficient, and you better not need a lot of face-to-face social interaction with people, because you're not going to get it. That didn't appeal to me.
No, I mean, in theory, it sounds nice and idyllic, but no.
I mean, I tried so
yeah. I, for one, need some movement around me, and the ease and convenience of going where and when I want to.
Yeah.
So I can't. I couldn't. I could have a retreat, a redoubt, a separate fortress of solitude that's maybe a cabin in the woods for a month or so to stretch, so I can get some serious writing done or hang out there and just
Yeah, and that's
whatever.
no, exactly, and that's where I'm at. Is that we're looking at recreational properties, in the mountains where we can just go retreat for a weekend or a week or two at a time.
Yeah.
But don't neither one of us wants to live there full time.
Exactly.
It's just it's not convenient. But it
Exactly.
is nice to get away. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we go camping, hiking, all that stuff. We get out of the city all the time, but
Yeah.
ultimately this is where we like to live.
I'm getting to be of an age that the idea of being up in the mountains doesn't bother me at all. But I've also, my temperament is such that I can do that because I can travel somewhere else if I need to perform and I need to be around people or whatever. But I like that seclusion. But it seems like there are a lot of people online and elsewhere that are talking about, reclaiming the land and getting back to nature and being manly men and mountain men and so on and so forth. And it's like, have you ever shot a squirrel? Do you even know how to skin one, let alone a deer or a buffalo or a bear or anything else? And what, you're going to start a farm? And has it ever occurred to you that there's a reason no one farms that area, because that land's only good for maybe grazing cattle and buffalo and nothing else? So, but I mean, there's a whole lost knowledge because, skinning a buffalo wasn't important. Knowing how to code would get you a job. So, you've been coding your entire life and now you're going to become a farmer. It's, you need to watch more than just a couple of YouTube videos to make that lifestyle change happen. And it's but it's just kind of funny because just in my own lifetime, thinking about how much I don't know, how much knowledge I don't possess that was lost when either my dad died or my grandfather died. I'm at least aware of it, when there are a lot of guys, at least younger than I am, younger than Rob and younger than Vince, aren't even aware of what it is they don't know anymore.
They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah. So but at least you'd mentioned that your dad had taken you hunting and you'd gone hiking and done some things. So you're also kind of that generation where you have at least some of that now lost knowledge, as of what you don't know, as well as actually knowing how to bring down a deer, either with a rifle or a bow. You hadn't said what you hunted with, but I mean, you at least know some of that stuff. So but some of these guys, it's like, I'm going to do that now. Hunting. Okay. But
no, you're 100% correct. I mean, to give you an example, when I was living out on the west side, and it's a desert. Now we had a good well because we were right on an aquifer.
Okay.
But even grazing cattle is impossible. I mean, unless you've got 1,000 acres for them to walk around on. I had 10 acres out there, and I had horses and goats and all kinds of poultry running around, dogs, cats, the whole bit. And it's expensive. At one point I was spending $1,000 a month feeding these damn things, and I wasn't getting a whole lot out of it. And it just, I was looking at the balance sheet and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Sustainable, unless you're really doing it right and you're treating it like a business. And, and again, that gets back to, you got to have the right woman for that and the right mindset, because, if you don't treat the animals like a business and like a way of life, then, you treat them like pets, and you make bad decisions.
And you do have the right woman for that, because she's flashing you as we're talking. So it's she just tweeted that out.
Did she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Can you tell when I'm flashing him? He's so sexy in this smoking jacket.
Yeah, she's
oh shit.
She likes to try to distract.
I was wondering. Well, I could
No,
see
she-
that. I
you
knew.
know-
I knew. I had a feeling she was distracting you in some way because I could see your eyes going back and forth like rapid fire. Yep.
Yeah, now she's laughing hysterically. Yeah, I can see the kitchen from here. Yeah, she's doing it again. I should turn the camera. No,
That's
You
funny.
just
you know.
hijacked the live stream.
Yeah, we're back to tits
right.
again. Our favorite subject.
Yeah, well, that's what the people want, right?
Exactly. They want to take biddies.
So no, you know what's funny is that we won't even have a dog because we know that's a responsibility. Like we like to travel, and what do you do with the dog when you travel?
No.
You got to find a kennel for it. That's an expense.
Yeah.
And you got to train it. And I've told her flat out, I was like, look, I had like half a dozen dogs at one point when I was living on the ranch. I'm not doing that again. And
Seriously.
hey, if you want a dog, great. You're picking up after it. I'm not doing it. Because I just, I'm not at that point in my life anymore. So I think she's talked about maybe having chickens because we eat a lot of eggs. And I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. I'll build a
They
coop.
get rid of the fucking
I don't
insects
think
and
the HOA is
ticks
going to
and
give a
shit.
shit. Yeah, they're really good about that. I have,
Yeah.
we have to keep the scorpions down here, and they.
Oh
they eat
shit! I
those,
forgot about
like,
that.
I
Yeah.
can't-
Wait, the chickens eat the scorpions?
Oh yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Really?
So when
Holy shit!
well, I had chickens, like I said, when I lived on the west side, and what I would do is I would catch the scorpions, put them in a mason jar, and then I would toss them in the chicken coop, and we would take like little bets with my kids, like, okay, which one's going to get the scorpion?
Oh
and,
fuck! Like,
they're immune to
chicken
the
and scorpion
immune to the-
fights.
Yeah, no, they're immune to the venom. So
Really?
scorpions can sting them all day, and they don't give a shit, and they'll just tear them to
fuck.
pieces. So
That's
it's
kinda
Yeah,
it's
chickens
fun to
are
watch.
vicious little critters.
Oh, they-
they
They're people think that all they eat is grain. It's like, no, they're carnivorous.
oh yeah,
they
they
will-
will eat each other.
We
I
have
mean,
a lot
yeah.
of large homesteads, as it were, out here in the New Jersey Pinelands. They have chickens all over the place because they get rid of the tick problem. The ticks, it's just eradicate them.
Yep.
So
No, they're handy for that. I mean, I wouldn't be able to have free range chickens out here because, like I said, I'm in a subdivision. But I told her, I was like, if you want it, I can build you a coop, and we can have 3 or 4 hens. You can't have any roosters because they're fucking loud.
yeah.
But the comment here. No, I've done the cattle, the hay. I mean, every week, drive down, take the pickup truck down, get a load of hay, stack that shit. And I'm allergic to alfalfa. Let me tell you, that sucked because, and I didn't know it, but every time I pick up a bale of hay and I'm stacking it, it's like I'm just breaking out all up and down my arms, on a weekly basis, no matter how hard I try to scrub the shit off. It's good exercise though, but,
I would imagine so. Yeah.
But it's I'm not knocking it. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have nothing but respect for people that do it for a living, and if you make a business out of it, but there's not much margin in it. You're not going to make a fortune on it unless you're building it to a massive scale, and you have to make hard decisions.
And so you have to be really focused and firm in your decision to go out and actually do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a life. You're gonna have nights where you don't sleep because you've got a cow that can't deliver its calf, or you've got your dog is having puppies or whatever, or somebody breaks out of a fence and then you're up in the middle of the night trying to stretch barbed wire. I mean, I've done all that. It's not an easy life.
No, there's a reason Green Acres is a situation comedy and not a blueprint for all New York lawyers to follow.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, it's you're not gonna. You think you're gonna have this comfortable. You just sit on your porch and and
smoke your
and
corncob pipe
mimosas.
with
It's
your.
Like, no, you're working all day, man, and sometimes all night. And if that's what you want, great, go for it. There's certainly some value. I mean, it's how to butcher a cow, So that's great. Talk about the lost knowledge. I mean, he has that. So if the lights go out, he's going to be all right. You know, my
Yeah.
daughter will be all. I mean, when my daughter was like 5, you know, we had goats, and you know, they'd get stuck on the way out when they're having babies, and she'd reach right up in there and pull those fuckers out. I mean, it's just, she's hardcore, you know. But
Yeah.
it's not, you know, it's a limited lifestyle. That's going to be all you do, and you're not going to have much outside of that. And you know, I don't know if it's necessarily fair to limit your children to that. But you know, if that's what you want to do, and that's what they want to do, that's just got to be your expectation. That's going to be all they're good at.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that as a lifestyle. In fact, I couldn't do that. No, it's not happening.
You could do it if you had to.
Yes, if I had to. But if you said, "Hey, Vince, sort of city life or, you know, Green Acres," maybe retire to Green Acres. But I'm not ready to retire yet.
Well, it's like you said. I mean, so look at like Teddy Roosevelt, for example. I love historical examples. You know, he loved that rugged outdoorsman lifestyle. Now but he was a wealthy man, and he lived in upstate New York, and you know, he had all the riches and wealth. Now he liked having a cattle ranch out west that he could go to and spend time at and raise beef on and all that stuff. And you know, but it was more of a 50-50 thing. It wasn't a
correct.
You know, this is all I'm doing. So yeah, you know, if you ask me, like, okay, if I had fuck you money, sure, I'd probably buy a cattle ranch, but I'd have somebody else run it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I would just ship the meat in when I needed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes
and I'd
perfect
go up there
sense.
and buy cattle once in a while just for shits and grins. But
right,
you know, I don't want it to be a lifestyle. It could be if I had to, but I'd rather not.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If you had to do it, you'd be up to it. But given the choice, no. Like I would, if I had fuck you money, I would have a oceanside house. I'd have a cabin in the mountains. I'd have a flat in the city, several cities, and I would just every quarter, you know, every quarter I'd go to a different.
That way, the
location.
girlfriends don't have to meet each other.
And exactly. Oh, unless you want them to, unless that's you know.
Unless they want to, you know, if they're
exactly. Unless they
then,
want to. Exactly. And as TJ and I always say to our LTRs and mistresses, may they never meet.
To wives and to sweethearts.
Exactly. May they never meet.
Two never meet. Great line from Master and Commander.
Right. And the lesser of two evils.
Yes. The lesser of two evils.
It sounds very romantic and all that. And then he just, as an offhand remark, as he's drinking.
Fantastic movie.
Absolutely. And not a single woman in it.
The only one was the island girl with the parasol. Yep. He looks down, is like, oh, and he's like, an opportunity, but I got shit to do.
Great with that.
I got shit to do. That's actually on one of the things on my list. The Naughty Nomad, the Captain Zola, Mark Zola. He was giving his journeys online about his sailing adventures and the boat that he purchased recently. And when we had him on Masculine Geek Life, he was talking about that. That's one thing that's on my list that I want to learn how to do. I've been on the motorcycle. I've learned how to fly, and obviously can drive. But learning how to sail, that's next on the list. So I think that'd be cool.
It's fun.
Now I don't know if I have. Oh, good.
No, I was going to say it's one of the things I got to do when I was a kid.
Oh, cool.
Was my dad sent me to a sail. You know, learned how to operate a sailboat.
Okay, it looks like fun. Looks like tons of fun.
Not a big one, but
small little.
It is. It's a lot of fun. And you know, it was funny. My dad we had a cabin on a lake when I was younger, and it was in Western Maryland, and it's in the mountains, Garrett County, Maryland. And there's a big lake there called Deep Creek Lake, and there's a ski resort nearby. So we'd go there in the winter, and we'd ski, and then we'd go to the cabin in the summer. And my dad was in the military, and his thing was, PT at 5 a.m, and he'd make us, me and my brothers, do it. And so what we would do is we had this little Higgins outboard wooden boat, that we'd fish off of. And so me and my brothers would set the alarm for like 4:30 before my dad got up, run down to the boat and start fishing and just get as far away as possible while he was going to do his PT. And I think it was a Jedi mind trick on his part to get us out of bed and out of the house because we wouldn't come back till like 10 or 11 in the morning, when we were sure he was done. And we'd get out of that. And, he had this, there was a local tackle shop on the lake, and we'd drive the boat up there, buy gas and bait and, coffee and food and all that stuff. And he just had an account there. And after a while he was like, why do I have this $400 bill from the tackle shop? What are you guys buying there? And it was, we'd be buying donuts and coffee, and we wouldn't catch many fish.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fun.
But he never, he always made sure we were equipped for that. Like before I was allowed to drive the boat, I had to take the Coast Guard safety and navigation course and get certified. And it was the same with the hunting. Like, okay, you got to get the NRA safety course. I mean, he was so into it. She's flashing me again, guys. I feel like I got to tell you now.
I can tell. I can tell you.
And,
hey, I don't blame you for looking.
And so. No. And so, but I was actually an NRA certified instructor when I was a kid. I would, I was really into the Boy Scouts when I was young, and they do a national jamboree, or at least they did. I don't know if they still do it. And it was at Fort 8 Hill, Virginia. And so I taught trap shooting to Boy Scouts. And, if that doesn't raise your situational awareness, nothing will. A line of 20 kids with shotguns, and you got to keep an eye on them and make sure nobody gets an eye shot out. So,
Don't get your eye shot out.
So, in retrospect, I think my old man,
he did good.
Right.
Yeah, he did good.
Gave us all that experience as kids.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, that's this spring and summer. That's what I'm going to be doing is learning how to sail.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. You'll love it. It's a blast, and there's something very liberating about. I mean. The literature romanticizes it, and rightly so, because when you're out on the open water and it's just you and the boat, and you can go wherever you want, do whatever you want. There's nobody, there's no lanes to follow, there's no traffic, nothing. It's just, okay, I'm going that way, and that's just, that's just how it is.
Well, that's how I felt when I was flying. It's the same thing when you're by yourself in the small Cessna. Yeah.
That's on my bucket list of shit to learn to do. Is there's plenty of little airports around here. Going up to Deer Valley, and once I'm done paying child support, and I have a few.
Is that way you use it for fuel?
Yeah,
fuel. Yeah, well, you basically pay for the avgas, and it used to be included with what's called the prop time. You pay for the hourly when the prop is spinning.
Yeah. I had a boss who did it back in the 90s. He was learning to fly, and he was telling me all about it. I was just like, man, that sounds so freaking cool.
Oh, it's
and I didn't have the means, and I haven't. It sounds incredible.
When you practice stalls or simulated engine failure, it's fun.
Clenches you up a little bit.
Oh my god, yeah. What clenched me up was it was my second or third. I think it was the second time I had gone up with my instructor. And there's another reason why I was nervous around him, but he was the husband of my manager that I worked with at Sears when I was retail back in the early 90s. And we're flying along. We're cruising about 6,000 feet. And he wanted to show me one of the Vortec. It looks like a satellite dish. It's for navigation, and they're all over the country. Mm-hmm. And we're banking a little bit. he has prescription sunglasses on. And for whatever reason, he opens what's kind of like a D window, the little to show me to point because I have the controls. And he's like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, "What do you mean, oh shit?" And he looks over at me, and the prescription sunglasses are off. They got sucked off his face. So he essentially, on my second flight now, talks me down to land. Like, talk about a baptism of fire. I came close to shitting my pants, especially when you're getting close to the runway, because that's usually where there's two times that are very critical during flight: takeoff and landing. Those are the two main points you have to be very, very, very focused and tight on.
No, that was his motto. My manager's motto. Every time we did something, like, this was in IT, right? But we would have a change going, and he's like, "All right, don't fuck up the landing." Was his euphemism for
exactly.
Don't screw it up, because that's the clench time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes,
that's cool as shit.
I do need to finish my certification though. I had to stop because he wound up. What happened was he was working as a commercial airline pilot and was moving to Florida, and midway through my lessons he wound up moving to Florida. So I lost my flight instructor, and he didn't charge me because he was just starting out as a flight instructor. He's like, "Oh, well, you help me, I'll help you. I can put you down on my resume as having a student, and you'll have flight time." So it worked out nicely. And Rob's going to get on me for finishing my my pilot license. Yep.
Yeah, I've got a friend who lives on the East Coast. I actually met him through Sarah Beth, and he has his own plane, and he's building his own plane, and he's really into it. He's got this Tiger Bear. He flies all over the country and shit. And
oh shit, where's he located? Like what state?
I want to say it's one of the Carolinas, but don't.
Oh, okay.
Don't hold me to that. I've never met him in person. We've talked, even on the phone and stuff, and he's brilliant. He's like a genius level intellect, and he's really into programming and all that stuff. But he's just, if you've ever been around a guy who's a legitimate genius, and their brains just operate on another wavelength, and it's always fun to me to spend time with those kind of people, because I feel like they're using a portion of the gray matter that I haven't touched yet. Just having a conversation with them, it's like, yeah, I never really saw it that way. The perspective that you can tell when somebody's a real genius or when they're just a clown like me that kind of pretends to be, that they're actually operating on another level. And that's, I don't know how this guy has enough hours in the day. I mean, honestly, he'll tell me about like how he's tearing apart an old Commodore 64 and how he did work on this plane that he's building. He's got a hangar that he's, literally building it from the ground up,
That's cool.
Fabricating all the metal and everything. I mean, it blows my mind. Is one of those like Elon Musk level intellects that just seems to have the brain power and the time and the motivation to do whatever the hell he wants.
That's a good combination. Shit.
Yeah. So.
All right. Cool. You what?
That's where I'm trying to get to.
Seriously. Sounds
Not
like
yet.
An interesting lifestyle, actually. Well, I'll never be able to tap into those parts of my brain, so I'm not worried about that. I'll just continue on with my mid-level intellectual self. I'm fine with that. As long as I can read and I'm good and write.
That's what I do. I don't my library's not quite like Robert's over there, but it's getting there.
I don't know if anybody's is quite like Robert's.
he's got some good stuff and good collectibles.
What can be seen is nothing compared to what can't be seen.
Nice. That's very zen of you, Robert. I like it.
That is kind of zen,
right? It really is. Well,
Yeah,
Robert's,
I collect old books now.
you collect what?
Old books.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
I've got an encyclopedia from 1987, full set of Britannicas. I've got
Oh,
all
nice.
kinds of old history books. Like I said, I don't trust anything written in the last 25 years. So.
I don't
Yeah.
blame you. I've got a copy of Ivanhoe from 1900. I've got
That's awesome.
a copy of the Three Musketeers from, I think, 1920. What was cool is it had inside of it a clip out from the local newspaper for this brand new movie starring Douglas Fairbanks called The Three Musketeers.
That's fucking awesome.
And so
That's
it's like a
cool.
half a page from a newspaper clipped out from, the 1920s for this Douglas Fairbanks version of The Three Musketeers. And it was inside the book when I acquired it.
It's funny you mentioned that. A lot of it seemed to be a thing at the time. A lot of people did that. They use that stuff as a bookmark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found that when you go to old
paper
estate
wasn't
sales and
as-
stuff.
Yeah, paper was not as
Yeah.
ubiquitous as it is today. So, the gem of
Very
my
true.
collection is a first edition of the Will Durant series. Was a Story of Civilization. I've got all like 13, 14 volumes of that,
Nice.
and it's. I mean, they're old. Like when I open them up, you can just smell it. It's like,
Oh yeah, isn't that great? Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
That-
And
that-
I'm trying to read
pulp
through
of
it,
the
but
wood.
it's a lot. It's.
Oh, I bet.
I refer to it a lot, when I want
Mm-hmm.
to, cite some piece of history, and I don't trust Wikipedia at all.
No,
Um,
piece of shit.
I dig into my old history books, and that's always
Yeah.
satisfying.
Right? Wasn't that? I mean, we grew up with that in high school and junior high.
Yeah, you had to learn the
research
Dewey
with
Decimal
the-
System.
Exactly. You had to go to the card
You had to
catalog.
actually
Man, I fucking love that
Read
shit.
the books, man. Yeah, you
Yeah.
had to find the information the old way.
I may have related this story on the show once before, but when I was working as a substitute teacher at my old high school, I had a class of advanced placement social studies kids. So these are all kids getting college credits. And they were working on a project, and we're down in the library, which is no longer called a library. It's called a media center, which I think is tragic. But anyway, I have like 2 or 3 tables of students just sitting there, and they're not doing anything. And I'm like, why the hell aren't you guys working? And they're like, well, all the computers are full, so we can't do anything. And I'm like, but you're in a library. You can do research without the computer. And they're like, but the computers are all full. And it's like, no.
Figure out how to operate that micro machine.
Yeah. And so I asked each table what particular aspect of this assignment they were doing. And it had to do with like movies, music, literature, and pop culture in the 50s, 60s, 70s. This mass media influenced pop culture, how it influenced. So, to me, this is like geek wheelhouse stuff. So I'm like, oh, this is easy. So I told them to give me 60 seconds. And I ran into all these little departments and came back with books, Rolling Stone's History of Rock and Roll, Billboard charts, top 40 singles for the last 30 years, books on Academy Award winning movies, just a handful of random stuff. I mean, this is without even resorting to using the card catalog or anything, because I didn't have that much time. But I was able to go into these different sections and just grab books. And I'm like taking them to them, and it's like, this is called a book. And when you open it, it has words. And when you read the words, they form images in your mind. And some of them have pictures, and some of them have color pictures. And I'm like, these were the smart kids, but they were absolutely incapable of doing research without going to the computer and asking the computer what the answer is. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I had this assignment in high school, oh my God, I could have written anything about movies or music, 60s movies and how they either reflected or influenced culture, or 50s. It would, that I could have done that without doing the research, just because, I'd lived part of it, or, you know, read the books and listened to the music or watched the films of my own vocation. So I'm like, wow, this is truly, truly sad that you guys do not know how to do this kind of research. And but
Gen X really
Definitely
was
a
the
lost
last.
art.
Yeah, we were the last generation that didn't have the internet growing up.
Correct.
And so we didn't have the convenience of just asking your smartphone or doing a Google search. And it's really too bad, because so much of that can be modified, and retroactively changed, and
purposefully so.
That's that's why I love having the old books around. I realized when my kids were having to do research, in school, and they would do the same thing, like, hey, are you citing your sources? Like, yeah, here's the URL for the Wikipedia article I read. I'm like, that's bullshit, man. Like, get, and I would take them to a library and be like, okay, here's real books, and here's how you actually research this. And I one of the things I started doing, after, I got divorced, was, investing in my own library, because I realized that the real physical libraries were becoming rare. I mean, there's a guy I used to follow on Twitter. I forget his name. But he goes around trying to save media that's getting thrown out by university libraries. He'll get permission to just dumpster dive because they're throwing out tons and tons of microfilm. And he's like, this stuff doesn't exist anymore. It's not on the internet. This is like burning the Library of Alexandria here, and we're doing it voluntarily now.
Oh yeah.
And when I was a kid, again, one of these things that I didn't realize how good I had it at the time. My dad always had like a set of Compton's encyclopedias in the living room, and if we had a question about something, he's like, "Well, go look it up." There you go. Look at that.
Nice.
Now this is a first printing from 1919. Talk about newspaper articles used as bookmarks. I know,
So
right?
that would have been right after he died.
Yeah. And this is the headline to this is Colonel Roosevelt as he came out of jungle. The photo, and that's from the newspaper.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, even after he left the White House, I think he went to South America. He did real work down there. Like, he discovered.
He was on the River of Doubt. Yeah, with
ahead.
his son Kermit. Yeah. I love the inscriptions of these old books.
Cataloged a lot.
He did, yeah. The inscription on this book says, which I always love to find these. It's like a little treasure. This is the life story of a man. Read it with care. Father to son, Christmas of 1919. A father gave this to a son when it was published. This is a fantastic find. This is expensive though. This wasn't cheap, but it's totally worth it. So.
Worth every penny, I'm sure. No,
absolutely.
that's why, like, when they're tearing down, they tore down the statue of Roosevelt in front of like one of the New York libraries or something.
I saw that. That's fucked up.
I'm like, he actually contributed to the catalog of human knowledge. He wasn't just like, they treat him like he was this, big game hunter that just killed animals. Like, well, yeah, he did that, but he
also he created national
worked to
parks.
save them.
Yeah, national parks.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of when I visited. I've been to Yellowstone like 3 times, and
cool.
There's an entryway where there's an arch that's dedicated to. There's like the Teddy Roosevelt, entrance on the south side of Yellowstone, I think it is.
Yeah,
and it's dedicated to him because he was the one that basically made that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because he, I refer to myself as a Roosevelt kind of conservationist. I'm a tree hugger to a certain extent, and that I think the land needs to be preserved for future use, but it needs to be used. Not just
exactly.
Steve, is he checking in from Brazil?
I think he is. Yeah, up at 1 a.m. and watching. Nice. Oh, wait a minute, Brazil.
I love that guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've had him on the show. Like he's a recurring guest. He's a favorite guest, Stephen. What's up, Steven?
I got to get down to Brazil, and he's going to introduce me to all the honeys he has down there.
Hey,
The ones that
we're
he's done with.
nice. Yeah, we're
I
gonna be planning a
I don't mind
trip
getting
there.
his sloppy seconds. It's okay.
The sloppy seconds.
Yeah.
There you go. It's at blowing the load again. I was gonna say, yeah, we want to do a Masculine Geek Brazil meetup probably within the next year or two.
God, that would be
Yeah.
amazing.
It's got to happen. Yep.
That's on my bucket.
Yeah, absolutely. We were gonna be in Italy.
We can get international travel back to normal.
Yeah, seriously. Well, we were gonna do an Italy trip, and that was in process of being planned, but that got squashed with the kung flu bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mexico is open again though. That's what I hear. So
It is, yes. They open up. They're like, fuck this. We're done. We're done. Yeah, we don't care.
yeah. Well, my current position, I manage a team in Mexico, and God, it's great. It's I have so many friends down there now that I can tap into. So
Nice.
But I've been to Mexico a few times, but it's definitely on my list. Go get back to Cancun, maybe see Puerto Vallarta. Rocky Point is real close to here. Puerto Penasco. It's only a few hours drive. So, you know, we had all these plans. You know, 2019 we went and got our passports, you know, refreshed and all that, and we're going to travel, and then got fucked. So.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people's travel. Unfortunately, I got the money back for the Airbnb, so
That's good.
Yeah, that worked out nicely. All right, we're a little bit past the 2-hour mark, so we appreciate the time you spent with us. This has been a great discussion. This has been fun.
Love it.
Yeah.
We want to take up.
Would have appreciated more had you turned your computer around a couple times during the show. But that's all right. She's your fiance.
I didn't know if that was I didn't know if this was a family program, so maybe next time.
No, come on, you kid! I'm talking about blowing loads, and you're like worried about tits. You're worried about tits.
I don't know. I don't want to get you kicked off of YouTube.
Well, we've been thrown off for nipples before.
Yeah.
Well, I'll ever put something sheer over the top of it, so it's not too obvious.
Nice.
She's got lots to work with. Don't worry. That's anytime we have a holiday or like Valentine's Day, I've already bought everything, and I'm making her look at it. It's I've got all these gifts sitting on the mantle, but it's all stuff for me.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I don't know how much you're gonna like this, but I'm gonna enjoy watching you
greatly. Exactly. That's the way to do it, man. That's the way to do it. So. Nice. Yeah, this has been a good introduction to what you're about, what you're writing about, and just talking in general. I think that bring you back on again. We'll talk more women in travel and whatnot too.
And definitely come back when your second book gets released.
Exactly. And refresh my memory. And when is that? Because it's finished, isn't it? The second book.
The first draft is finished. So my my MO is that I'll put the draft aside for at least a few months because it's got to incubate. You know what I mean? Because I'll come back to it and I'll like parts of it and I'll hate parts of it and rewrite a bunch of it. It's like 130,000 words, man. It's a lot. So here for Nipplegate. Yeah. Okay. We'll schedule Nipplegate for the that'll be the title of the next episode I'm on.
That'll be next episode. Next episode will be Nipplegate. Absolutely.
Nipplegate. So I'm gonna make her earn her keep since she's running her mouth about how often she's flashing. She's gonna have to make good on it now.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell because I think you've looked over at least 125 times.
That's her thing. She's in there. She'll be watching TikTok or whatever, and then look up, and if she sees that I'm looking, she'll pull the shirt up.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Keep it fresh.
Right. Yeah, that'll be our next discussion, and we bring you back on.
Yeah.
Cool.
What we'll do it during the daytime when it's warm out, and I'll have her out suntanning or something in the background.
There, perfect. There you go. Did you like the thumbnail I made from your shot from Twitter?
That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That's one of my favorite pictures. It was a random thing. So like we had this Indian summer, whatever, a few weeks ago, where it was like in the 80s
Mm-hmm.
in January, and I was like, this is great.
Oh
And
shit.
I'm like, go get your bikini on because it's nice out. And I'm just sitting out writing my journal, smoking a cigar, and she's, reclining on the chase lounge there. I'm like, hold still, we get a picture here, and
That's fucking awesome.
yeah,
Love it. That was like
Way
that
to
has to
do
be.
it.
That's got to be. That has to be the thumbnail for the show. Has to.
yeah. No, she's oh, here we go again. What? Oh, now she. All right, she's getting impatient.
We'll
I might have
release you
some
to her.
work to do here.
I know you got to go take care of business. We know. All right, cool. Is there any parting
I
wisdom
gotta
you
go
want to
take
give
care
to
of
the chat?
business.
Yeah, take care of business. Absolutely. Is there any parting wisdom you want to give to the chat and to the viewers and listeners later?
Just read old books. That's what I tell everybody. Don't get too caught up in the bullshit and the everything that's going in the media is trash. I haven't had a TV. Well, I have TV screens, but I don't watch TV. I haven't had TV service in 5 years.
Likewise.
And it's the best decision
Yep.
ever made.
Right.
Don't watch television. Don't listen to commercial radio. Just stream your music, or get a boom box like I do, and
Boombox.
and read
I
old
haven't heard
books.
that.
That's where the real work is. I do. I have it's in my garage. Like I go out there
It's fucking
when I'm
awesome.
working. Building shit, building guns, whatever. So
Yeah.
we can talk about
Old
that
radio
next time.
shows.
How to build a fire.
Yeah. Right.
There you go. That's good stuff.
Oh yeah, the radio shows. Oh yeah, I have no idea about contemporary music anymore. I listen to jazz and
I
classical.
have enough. I listen to it only because my kids are into it, and so
okay.
I can't avoid it necessarily, but any music made after 1995 is probably not worth your time.
It's pretty much garbage. Yes. Long live the 80s.
There you go.
That's what I have to say. Yep. Well, once again, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much for spending your time with us on here, Mexico Geek.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's been great. Yeah,
This has been
anytime.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great to make your acquaintance.
indeed.
Yeah, really, really cool meeting you guys. And sorry, Rob had to go, but yeah. it's
Yeah,
been fun.
we'll bring him back too. Now, where can everyone find
All
you?
right.
Other than we just let me share out the your website here. You can also
There's
find
the
you on
website has
Twitter.
links to all the. I should have a link to the Twitter handle. Is probably most active.
Let's see. Oh yeah, here you go. It's all down the bottom there.
Yeah,
You go.
it's-
Facebook,
I
Instagram.
don't know if those
Twitter.
links work, but the Twitter works.
Okay.
So
All right. Cool. Oh, you have a YouTube channel. All right. Cool. I'll have to go
yeah,
check that out
I don't
later.
know what I've got on there. It's probably yeah. I tried doing podcasts on there for a while. That's a commitment, man. I tell you, doing a regular podcast is work. I wasn't ready for it.
Well, it's a labor of love, as it were. I know it's kind of a dorky thing to say, but we haven't missed a Mexico Geek show.
I have nothing but anytime somebody asks me on, I mean, unless it's it's bizarre, I'm almost an automatic yes. And I know I had to reschedule a few times here just based on the scheduling being what it was around the holidays, but I love the opportunity to get on and get FaceTime with people and just bullshit like this, because it's a good way to network with people and so forth. And anytime any of you gentlemen are in the Phoenix area, you better look me up. I've got
Hell yeah.
I've got all the local cigar bars that are top choice out
yes.
here. So
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll definitely plan a trip out there. That'd be cool to hang out. Yeah. Cool. All right, excellent. All right, we're gonna wrap it up then.
Sure.
Any final questions in the chat? Going once, going twice. All right, you're fucked. All right, so everyone, this has been Masculine Geek number 156 with Noble Brown, the Barbarian author, writer, and professor. So go back out there, watch this again, listen to this again, go buy some old books, and TJ, take us out.
All right, guys, keep the fires burning, keep the lead shooting down range, keep the wine flowing, don't take any wood nickels, and do not drink all the rum.